afternoon, and welcome to Capture's live event today called A Latte Engagement. My name is Jamie Gleason, and I am coming to you from the Gleason estate in lovely Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And I am so excited, not only about the recent snowfall that I had in my town, but also about the opportunity that I get in this time together with you to speak with some incredible friends and partners that we have at Capture from Central College. Today's event is really going to be talking about some of the successes that they've seen, the opportunity that they've had to work with Capture, and I should say the opportunity that we've had to work with them. We are excited to be able to really go through and talk about the things that everyone wants for Christmas. You know, the things that we all want, actually, maybe not for Christmas, but more for the upcoming enrollment cycle. And this is the outgoing message that we sent that got you here today, because we know that this has been an unbelievably odd year, yet at the same time, the needs are still present. So we're going to take today to talk with our friends at Central College about the process that they went through and the things that they have done in working with Capture and over the last couple of years. And we are really excited. Let me just say a heartfelt thank you for you for coming and for joining us during this time. I know as a former director of admissions, there are lots of things on the list that need to be done. So thanks for giving us 45 minutes of your day to really walk through this with us. So again, my name is Jamie Gleason. I am the Director of Undergraduate Initiatives at Capture Higher Ed. And for those of you who might not be familiar with Capture, let me just give a literal 30-second overview of what we do. Capture is in the business of behavioral intelligence. And this screen typifies the products and the items that are a part of that behavioral intelligence platform, the same behavioral intelligence platform that we're going to talk about with our friends from Central College. It is made up of these four parts that you see on the left of your screen: engage, apply, aid, and enroll. Really tools to synthesize and to see user behavior on your website, to gauge and show attribution, and then to use that real data, that real-time behavioral data in predictive modeling, the predictive modeling process that so many of you are familiar with. We do this through a set of solutions, and most of all with a set of staff that you see listed there on the bottom right, who really are the engine behind the process that we do as a fully managed service. So you might be asking, or maybe you're not asking, maybe you know a little bit about Central College. Central College is located in Pella, Iowa, and I will let Denise and Chevy tell you a little bit about Pella, Iowa. It's a private liberal arts college. There's a little bit about their enrollment, and they have been working with Capture since April 2018. So why don't I bring our two friends from Central onto into the screen here to introduce who they are and tell us a little bit about the role that they do at Central College. Chevy, will you start us off?
Yes, thank you, Jamie, for the invitation today. Happy to speak to you and everyone about our partnership and the successes that we've experienced. Yeah, we are Central College. A little known fact about being here in Pella, Iowa, we have the largest working windmill in North America. So Pella is a community that was founded by Dutch immigrants several years ago, hundreds of years ago. And we have that heritage also here at Central. We're the Central Dutch. So we are a private four-year liberal arts college. We're residential. All of our students live here on campus, and there's great academics. We have great success and lots to do outside the classroom as well. Also a big powerhouse in Division III, American Rivers Conference. So strong athletic tradition as well.
Nice. Go Dutch.
Yeah,
How about you, Denise? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Denise Lamphere. I've been at Central. Tomorrow will be my 3rd year anniversary working with Chevy in the communications and marketing efforts, helping him enroll more and more students to the college. And I love working with Chevy. I have a fantastic team of content specialists and content strategists that also support our work. Everything that Chevy and I are going to be talking about today, we couldn't do without them or without the admission reps that support Chevy's efforts. And so I just want to send out big props to them. I know some of them are on here listening. And so I hope you're smiling wide underneath those masks, guys.
Awesome. I saw the on the registration list, I saw a big cohort from Central. So good to have all of you with us. And, I want to emphasize too, Denise, I feel the same way. Behind the screen here today, we have Brandon and Emma and the entire marketing team, but then behind them at Capture stand, that list of individuals, our data scientists, our account managers, and so many others that really are the boots on the ground, if you will. I get to be the mouthpiece and the face mask. I guess that made it too soon to go that way, but like the face of the outgoing here. But it's good to have that support group. I know that for sure. So why don't we start right out with a little bit of context, so that way you've told us a little bit about Central College. Let's talk a little bit more about what really back in 2018, what was the item that kind of brought you to the table? We again, everyone out there knows that when you enter into a contract, with a vendor, there's always some precipitating event, whether it's the emphasis on greater yield or more applications, or someone on the board knows someone at at the company or something like that. What was it that really brought you to where we are today?
Well, Jamie, we had been pushing the easy button, you might say, for several years. We'd been with a vendor for a very long time that had been working for us. And recently, we weren't seeing the results we wanted to see. We were getting into a point where we had a lot of volume. We had a lot of soft interest. So we were particularly interested in yield, building more of that quality group of students that ultimately were going to enroll at Central College. So the big driver for us was probably yield, and looking to shed some of that, again, softer interest, and really give a focus to the work that the counselors do in a very relational way. And then also allowing Denise and her team to really focus our communication efforts on that right group.
Sure. Yeah. And obviously, what I think we're going to talk about the end result, what that looked like now. But we are honored, in that process that we became one of your partners. I think that, there's a lot to be said about, what you just mentioned, Chevy, in that there's a lot of work that goes into that top part of the funnel. And when you don't see that yield transpire, then it can be demoralizing. It can be hard. You can think about the efforts that were lost and the time invested that never turned out. So that's something that we take very seriously, and we want to make sure that, honestly, I would say every year we just want to make it better and better and better until.
Well, and Jamie, that analogy of the funnel was broken, right?
Yeah.
The funnel model wasn't working anymore, so we needed to change. And as we looked at Capture, looked at the technology, looked at the tools that you could provide us, it looked really, really encouraging. So we took that leap and married it to a lot of strategy, which I won't share too much about, but specific strategy on taking that technology and uniting it to, again, everything we do here at Central.
Sure. Yeah. And so, Denise, this is your day-to-day. As the director of integrated marketing, you're basically kind of the probably the interface between your CRM and the work that's going on at Capture. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what that looks like? What's that partnership with Capture? What's that? What typifies that in your mind? Yeah, how does it go?
Well, I think first of all, it starts with our relationships with our account representative, Gretchen. She's again another shout out to her. She gives great advice and is also responsive when we have questions or ideas, because we like to push the envelope here and challenge you guys to help us do things better too. And so we have appreciated that openness on a number of occasions where we've been able to advance the ball a little bit further than anybody ever anticipated that we would be able to do. The other thing too that we take advantage of is the work that Gretchen does with the success plan that Capture creates for us. Obviously with a lot of feedback from Chevy and myself and members of our team. And then we integrate that information into our annual marketing campaign for enrollment. So they all talk together, integrated is the word of the day, Jamie.
Yeah.
Our work with Capture is just as important to our success as our website, as our social media efforts, as our email marketing efforts. It all talks to each other. And my team makes sure that it's integrated when they're working through some of those tools and making sure that it's just successful and that it reaches our audience that we want to reach.
Yeah. It's funny because, the title of today's event is A Latte Engagement. And I think a lot of times, I default as a Capture guy, I default to thinking of engagement between the student and your marketing material, your website, and things like that. But what you just pointed to, Denise, is that there's a latte engagement. Sorry, I'll just go with that pun from now on. I'll use it the whole time. There's a latte engagement between you, your department, and admissions, between you and Gretchen, between the inner working strategies that happen on campus. Because if they're not singing together, then something will go awry. Something won't be measured correctly. You won't advance the funnel level like we want. So that's a very astute observation.
Yeah, Chevy will tell you I'm very astute all the time.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about that integration. So I'm seeing a trend in kind of in the organizational flow between in a lot of institutions where, it used to be that marketing and enrollment were kind of like these two separate, blocks of people that maybe on occasion, like a couple summits a year, a few meetings a year would talk together. But now there's a much more integrated effort between enrollment and marketing. And specific to Central, like how has the relationship with Capture moved, changed things operationally between those two departments at Central?
Well, I think, echoing what Denise was sharing, it's really united our effort. And so we've really been able to move the needle on enrollment and engagement with our student population from that united conversation that we're having, within our own communication team, with the work that Capture's doing, and then the work that I'm focusing our admission counselors on. So we are striking at the right moment. We are having pertinent conversations, meaningful conversations, and also directing resources in the right way faster. So in that way, I think, again, it's that unification and that collaborative discussion that we're having on a regular basis.
Sure, absolutely. One of the things that, and we're going to get here in just a second into some of the actuals, right? Like I like talking conceptually. I feel like conceptually is really a part of the work that I do as the director of undergraduate initiatives. Pardon me. But really talking about the actuals is where the proof is, right? We're going to see the outcome of of our efforts in the actual numbers, in the actual engagements. And you just hit on something, Chevy, a second ago that I really thought was an important piece of functionality. I oftentimes, sorry, there's a big run up to this, maybe not even a question, but like I oftentimes think to myself, what would it have been like to have the capture engagement tools available when I was a director of admissions? Now, this was 8 years ago at a school here in the Philadelphia region. But I think one of the things that I find the most compelling and the most useful is what you just mentioned, is like that ability to integrate the data that's happening from your prospect pool and put it in front of your counselors so that they can assess it, access it, they can understand what's happening, and they can then respond to that in order to make, the pivots that are needed, the shifts that are needed. And especially as we go into the funnel further, where you're really just narrowing that field of focus down to the ones who are most important to think about. So let's change gears here just a little bit to the actuals. Let's talk a little bit about some of the strategic moves that you made. And you made the statement earlier that the funnel was broken. And in that, there was probably, a gigantic amount of volume at the top. And with the yield being down, obviously your enrollments weren't where they needed to be. So what guidance can you provide on the paradigm of changing your volumes? Because it's especially this year, right? This year has been epically weird in terms of volume available, our ability to travel, all that stuff. So, thinking through that volume paradigm, what advice or guidance would you give on helping people to think about targeting differently and thinking about the right student, like moving through that?
Sure. So, Jamie, I think, there's a lot of assumptions we're making on using capture and applying the techniques that your company provides. I just need to compliment Denise on the amount of brand work we've done here at Central to really know who our audience is and who we are here at Central College. So we're very, very careful when we send messaging out, when we put print together, we are on brand. And so I think one of the huge gains over the past few recruitment cycles is that consistency with brand.
Oh, huge.
So, as you think about the work that you're going to do in enrollment to increase enrollment or further redefine your pool or whatever your goal might be, you got to have your brand house in order. And so Central pays close attention to that. We, again, put the resources into making sure we are on brand. Yeah. So, when you have that laser and it's focused.
Interrupt real quick?
Go ahead, Denise.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's from the top down too, right? That while, the communications team and the admission team are clearly using this information daily, it starts with the president and the board of trustees, and it funnels all the way with octopus arms to our faculty and staff and even our students, right? I know. Yeah, we love it when we start hearing our students, when we're interviewing them. We love it when they start saying things back to us that, we know originated out of our brand research and the work that we've been doing. It's pretty awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is definitely the proof is in the doing. I said that to someone this week, and that is incredibly cool.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted, but I thought that was.
Absolutely, Denise. I'm glad you bring that up because it is a team effort. And so when you, when you take what you have on brand and you make sure we are all singing the same song and we're all in tune, you will reap the benefits of that. And I think we've been doing that very, very well the past few years.
Yeah. And I'm sure in that, having the right brand message and then using the capture tools to really think about, hey, how do these markets respond, and how do we take the machine learning components and then push that push that message out to the right market and then watch that trickle down through. So that's that is absolutely, it's like heartwarming for me to hear, because there are times when I'll get something, whether it's an email or a direct mail message, and it's like, didn't they think about the fonts that they were using here and the backdrop and all that stuff? Because it doesn't align with the website that I then go to. And so it's a critical component, because especially as we're thinking of underclassmen and how we can broaden that kind of market share geographically, then they need to have a consistent message as they're moving through their years in high school in order to recognize what they're actually looking at.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right, so here we go. Let's get into the actuals that we are a latte difference. We went from a latte engagement to a latte difference. So this is like I feel like this is the moment where we all, if I knew that it wouldn't make a really loud noise on my microphone, I would clap. But I've been told before that is not allowed. Mm-hmm. But this is it. This is the money shot where we take the tactics and strategies that Capture's tools have brought, along with the consistency and the efforts of your team, because that is never to be minimized. And we see the changes. Like, this is an incredible rate of difference. So you talked about, we wanted to have more engagement. You talked about soft applicants before. And this, obviously this year, as we think about, late cycle applicants and the crazy volumes that are, harder to pin down. What were the operational changes that kind of led to this? How did you take your team, realign their efforts, or how to, like, almost, I feel like there's a part where you had to break out of a mold, right? You had to figure out what was happening and how to work with Capture as opposed to pushing the easy button. What was that like?
Well, one thing that we do very well here at Central is professional development. So, this is another big acknowledgement of the investment that you put in your enrollment office. So with this switch from our previous vendor to Capture, there was a lot of intentional targeted work that we did together with the admission counselors to retrain them on focus. As I mentioned, we had a lot of volume, and a lot of volume can create confusion. Mm-hmm. Where do I begin? Where do I apply my effort? So the behavioral engagement, allowing us to know where that is, where we should focus, sure, has been extremely helpful. You couple that with, again, great messaging, messaging that, again, based on the research we've done, we know our market is interested in. Sure. Right. Every institution has a certain market, and you've got to do that work in advance to know how you need to speak to your market, what is important. There are some general things, and then there are some specific things to your institution. We've taken all of that work, we couple it with Capture's tools, we unleash the counselors, and boom, you get what you get there. Also, another shout out to Denise, again, it's over communicating a lot, even amongst our, at Central. We have frequent meetings, at least a weekly meeting, admission and the marketing office department. And we walk through the plan. We pivot when we need to. We look at data. Yeah. We use data, and we make data informed decisions. So we have a lot of heads around where we're headed next. And, as Denise always says, it's not in stone. I mean, we can quickly be nimble and change things. Denise, do you?
I can't say it any better than you did, Chevy. I think that sums it up pretty well. Just lots of creativity and great brains and open dialogue and communication, and being willing to open the box and try something new and not be afraid of it.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm going to say, I know that you gave props to Gretchen. Gretchen is a huge friend of mine, and before I did this role that I did at Capture, I also was a senior enrollment advisor, account executive, like she is. And one of the things, one of the greater joys that I had in that process was really that operationalization of strategy. To be able to really like take the tools that were available, the data, like you referred to, Chevy, the data available, and say, how do we make this work better for us? That is like such a critical, it's a critical item, but it's so often the item that gets left behind or put on the back burner because like, who has time for that? I used to, I used to joke all the time, again, when I was sitting in the admissions chair, I had a whole list of things that I was going to do in the summer, right? The list of things that I was going to do in the summer never, ever got done. But that was like always one of them, like evaluate this market, look at this major, do these kind of things. One thing I love about the Capture tools is that the market, the user is going to tell you what those hot areas are, those buttons and those things that we need to pay attention to. So that's a big takeaway. And I think, again, my props to Gretchen, because I know that in her process with you, that this has been, part of that operationalization of the strategy has been hours of conversation and batting ideas back and forth and whiteboarding and really going that extra mile to make some of these outcomes a reality. So while I want to make sure that you and your team that are listening get lots of the credit for the tons of work that's done, I know that Gretchen is a huge part of that as well.
Absolutely.
So are some of the other tools that you guys have too, Jamie. Every day, first thing I do is check out my email that I have from Capture on how things were performing yesterday. And the Engage platform makes it pretty easy to also go in and check different campaigns and monitor how they're performing. And then if necessary, we have conversations with Gretchen about maybe we need to tweak something or that's working, let's do more of that.
Yeah, that's I couldn't agree more. I love. I was talking with my friend Jack Klett, who's the director of Graduate, the other day, and how we were talking about there's this, it's a constant loop of learning and feeding it back in, learning and feeding that back in, because that's how you get better. That's how year after year it gets better and better and better. So thanks for pointing that out. That is certainly true. I want to be respectful of time, so we're about a half an hour in, and we still have a big topic that I want to just hear you guys go on a little bit here. So 2020 has been the most remarkable year that I think I've ever lived through. And I think that probably my 93-year-old neighbor might say the same thing. And certainly in the world of higher ed, and especially undergraduate higher ed, there are a lot of moving parts, a lot of question marks, a lot of things that we don't know. But what we do know is that we've made it this far, right? We've come through this. I feel like there is a bright horizon that's starting to show. But why don't you tell us, in the last 9 months of this very turbulent time, what role has kind of Capture played, and how have you adapted your process in the pandemic? What have been some of the moves that you've been able to implement using our tools, or some of the conversations you've had with Gretchen that have really been not things that you were thinking about back in February?
Well, again, our account exec, Gretchen, is great. And, there's no doubt she knows her work well and constantly is bringing ideas to us. Have you looked at it this way? Have you considered doing this? As we entered into the beginning of the pandemic, that was helpful for us to have, that outside voice in, making sure that we are crossing our T's, dotting our I's.
Yeah.
And it was, the Capture tools were more important than ever, because, when you need to know where that interest is coming from,
sure,
we get that from Capture, right? So we really doubled down on Capture's technology. We sort of went against the national trend.
Yeah, you did. Yes, you totally did. I didn't even point that out in the previous slide.
And and also going into this season as well with the next class, really performing well. And so cautiously optimistic about where we're headed, but very excited where we are on our app and admit and FAFSA filers at this point.
Sure.
The other thing too, and again, this will be unique to each institution, and Denise touched upon it earlier, is leadership. And so I think from the very beginning, from our president down, we had great leadership, which served us well with our current student population. And, as we thought about bringing our students back in the fall, again, some very strategic decisions, intentional decisions. And, the prospective students are looking at the decisions you're making with your current students, right?
Sure.
And they're drawing conclusions from that. So, we celebrate that we've been able to be in session in person all this semester. And it's been a great feeling. There's been stress. There's a lot of anxiety there, but we've managed through it. And Denise, do you have more to add? I'm kind of lost train of thought there, but yeah.
Well, that is an amazing, first of all, amazing accolades to your leadership to be able to really kind of walk through that and get back on campus. I know that my wife is a faculty member, and the joy that she gets from being with her students is just like incredible. And not only that, the benefits that they receive from having her in person and being able to hear her teaching. So kudos to you and to your team for making that possible, and for really charting that course, because these have been, crazy days trying to understand, what is the best move and how do we make that? I couldn't, you said something earlier, Chevy, that you're able to kind of watch that real-time behavior to understand, like, hey, how is our market adapting to what's happening in the news media or the counts and things like that. And I think that's a very that's a real thing. And I think the active approach that we take of like putting that back in front of you and saying, hey, make sure that you're not missing this is great. Gretchen, I know, she's great at that. So
well, and then also another piece of that, Jamie, too, is all of the anti-melt strategy that you would employ going into the summer. And so that was particularly important as we look to mitigate melt. And, we didn't lose a lot of students that had deposited. So very happy with where we landed this fall.
Yeah, I mean, unbelievable change of, a 16% growth in enrollment, and then your yield, which was your target, to have that grow 8%. And especially to have it grow and hold is that was not the case for a number of institutions in the marketplace. So we are, in December, we're looking at 2021, which holds a lot of hopes for a lot of people. Denise, I'm going to let you take this question first. What are your hopes for future changes? Now, I'm not going to put any brackets around this. I'm going to let you green light. You can think about, changes that you want, whether it's personally. I know that there was some mention that you want Chevy to work on his jokes and the delivery of his jokes later on for 2021, or just broader higher ed. I'm going to let you go. But what are your hopes for future changes upcoming?
Well, maybe we should start with a Chevy joke first, so everybody understands what you're talking about, because no one outside of the three of us and those of us at Central understand that Chevy is renowned for his jokes every day.
Well, I like to keep them seasonal. So, does anyone know how much Santa paid for his sled? Nothing. It was on the house. So, that's sort of that's how bad they are. Yeah.
I don't think that's actually quite good. So I would say go with that. So
I have no words, Chevy, as usual, with your jokes. But I think as far as the future goes, we're just excited that, there is hope on the horizon. The world is starting to get inoculated, which opens up lots of opportunities for us. In the meantime, we're going to keep focusing on looking at the data, leaning into our brand for our messaging, and making sure that all of that is tied together as tightly as possible, listening to our students and our prospective students to find out where we're missing the gaps. And my hope for the future is that we once again increase that number that you were showing on the screen number 5.
Yeah, we want that too. We definitely, like, that's a win for you is a win for us. So that's where we want to be. How about you, Chevy? Hopes for the future?
Similar to Denise, there are brighter days ahead, and I continue to be excited about the students that are choosing Central College, the momentum we have in that space, the conversations I'm hearing from the many visitors to campus. The students that are coming this fall, they are already through this pandemic, and they're excited about their college choice. And again, we've already got a great number of students that have chosen Central, and there's more out there. And it's just that persistence and doing what you do every day and doing it well, and having faith that it's all going to work out. And we, again, to kind of make this full circle, we put a lot of trust in Capture, and you delivered for us. So we're grateful for that relationship and partnership, and the work that we've done and the work that we are to do yet. So thank you.
Oh, please. Really, we're going to thank you, because that's, you are the living, you are living it out, and you're making it a reality using the tools the way that we have designed, and even in ways that we haven't necessarily designed them for. I think that's, one of the great parts about data is that it's not the data that enrolls more students. It's not the data. The data is there to inform other practice. And it's through examples like we've talked about today, where we see the application of that data, whether it's in our predictive models or whether it's in your, the use of that for branding materials. That is the critical element. So we did have a question that came in from the audience, and I'm gonna go ahead and take it. So here is the question. We want to know some of those examples. What did it look like when you unleashed the counselors? I know, Denise, you talked about the use of the daily visitor report, but what are some of the other examples that you used, for Capture?
Chevy, do you want to address that question?
Absolutely.
About unleashing counselors. You use it a little differently than I do.
Yeah. Well, Denise mentioned, daily we know activity, right? So what it allows us to do is from the moment counselors are here, 8 o'clock in the morning, they are able to more quickly start building those relationships with the right students. And,
sure.
So it's, again, I mentioned this, that focus earlier has been important to us. So whether it's swinging back, on another phone call, or it's another note, these are the things that you do to build a relationship. We can do that with the right population.
Sure.
So that would be one example of how we've used, again, the Capture tools.
Sure. Well, and I think you also mentioned one other thing, not to jump in, Denise, if you were going to put anything in there, but I think the other part is you said, your investment in professional development to understand, what are the characteristics that your staff bring to the table, and really understanding how that data can be useful to that staff member. How do those things work together? Because we know, on this side of enrollment management, that a lot of decisions are made because of a trust and relationship that's built. They trust your brand. They trust the person on the other end of the phone that they're talking to or texting with, and really being able to establish that You referenced earlier, Chevy, that ability to build that relationship in a manner that's expedient and quick. And that speed to lead is a very important factor. And I think actually, as we see technology continue to develop, especially in the higher ed world, that speed to lead component is critical to actually winning the student over, because there are other institutions that are willing and able to respond. So in many ways, it becomes a question of who can get there first to establish themselves in the mind of the student. So great. I would say, again, a big kudos for you being able to use your staff effectively and empower them to use that data, because that in and of itself is a feat at times. Mm-hmm. Well, we are up against our time, folks. I said that we would be done in 45 minutes or less. I rarely get to say that I accomplished that. If for those of you who are out there in webinar world and are listening in, I am always trying to cram more in than I can actually fit. But I do want to say a hearty thank you to the two of you for not only for your partnership with Capture, but also for just taking the time to kind of walk us through this. One thing that I think is unique about every partnership, every institution that we work with, is that there is a camaraderie and a partnership that does build between our team and your team. And I know that that is the case between you and Gretchen. So I want to thank you for taking good care of her. I thank her for taking good care of you. And I do wish you, as we enter into 2021, to not sound, not to be too Disney, but I do hope that all of your future dreams do come true, because I think we are on the brink of something that's very, very palpable in higher ed. And I think that I was talking yesterday in the Buzz, we were recording the Buzz podcast, and I think that higher ed is at a bouncing point where we are going to bounce back as we think about international students, as we think about the administration change of our country, and a lot of things that are going to happen. I think the reaction post-pandemic is going to be epic, and I'm excited to be a part of not only suffering through this part, but watching that part. I think is going to be great. So congratulations to both of you on your success. I wish you a happy holidays. I hope that you get all your tasks off your list very soon. And I think that's it.
All right. Thank you.
Happy holidays. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.